everybody out there in education land. This is Russell Smith, your friendly neighborhood instructional technology facilitator. I work at both Carpenter Elementary and Fuquay-Varina High School. Today I wanted to show you three quick hits, all three different sites that combine two objectives with current events and also geography skills. The first site I want to show you is museum.org/today's front pages. Museum.org/today's front pages. What this is, museum.org is kind of like a virtual current event site, and they actually have a physical location that you can go and see all kinds. You can visit and tour a number of different exhibits, but they also have an online presence. And in this in particular, I thought was neat, especially when you're teaching social studies. It's important for children, students old and young, to be aware and not knowledgeable about current events that are happening not only here, around their school, but throughout the country and throughout the world. And in order to figure out how their state, their home associates with the rest of the world. And this site I thought does a really good job with showing different newspapers that explore different headlines, from day to day throughout the country. As you can see here, I've got the map view on right now, but as you can see in North America, there are a number of different dots. So if I click on a dot and I mouse over it, you can see the front page of that day's newspaper headlines for that particular town. For example, this is Burlington, a few miles down the road, and this is the Burlington Times News. If I click on it, let me mouse back over there again. See if I can find that paper again. There's our News Observer. Let's go to the News Observer. If I click on the News Observer, it opens up a separate tab, and it shows a preview of what today's Friday, August 8th, as I record this, and it shows the front page of the News Observer. So what you could do is you could zoom in. I believe you can zoom in. I think you can also save these as PDFs. But what you can do is you can take a look at the headlines, have the students read the headlines, and just have a brief discussion about what's going on in the world and how that might be relevant to them. Now, one thing you can also discuss is I reset the map, because when I move it, it seems to mess up a little bit. What you can do is, like, if there are certain headlines that are similar in one part of the country, what you can do is you can compare headlines from one part of the country with another part of the country. For example, in North Carolina, let's say that if we look again at the News and Observer, this headline, Obama okays strikes in Iraq. It's a very current headline right now. But if you want to see how another state's covering it, let's go to, let's say, in Texas, Houston Chronicle in Texas. Here's an article about the same story. Obama opens door to Iraq, strikes in Iraq. What you could do is you could compare and contrast, points of view between one paper and the other, or one set of part of the country to another, because different parts of the country, they have different beliefs about different things, different opinions, different points of view. If you don't want to look just to the United States, you can look at North America, which includes Canada and Mexico as well. And as I refresh the map on North America, you can see all the dots that are popping up as they fill in. And all these dots represent newspapers that they have access to. You can also click on Asia and see all the different headlines in different parts of Asia. For example, here's the Wall Street Journal Asia for Hong Kong. Of course, it's in English, so you can read it. Students can read it. If you want to go to Europe, and let's say Liberation, I'm not sure am I pronouncing that right, but in Paris, France, the Château de Sable de Hollande. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. But you could just see how, different publications are different in different parts of the country, different parts of the world. The Middle East, say, for example, I'm going to reset the map. And this is Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And of course, this is written in Arabic. But you just show them, how publications are different around the world. And, different features. You have headlines, you have your stories, you have your sidebars, but they look totally different than what they do in the United States. You can also view this in a gallery form if you want to view it alphabetically by town and by state, and scroll down and view it that way if the map is not your style, or you can look at a list if you want to find a particular newspaper easily. And you can also view archive pages from previous days and previous years, all the way going back down 2010, 2008, all the way down. Looks like the most far back is 2003. So you can also view headlines for up to 10, 11 years ago. So that, once again, is museum.org/today's front pages. The next site I want to show you is called newspapermap.com. And this is kind of similar to what today's front pages offered us, but as you can see, it's much more. You can see, and all the different colors of these symbols are indicated by languages. On the right, you have a legend on the right-hand side that shows every color that represents different newspapers in different languages. For example, all the papers that are written, or newspapers that are published in English, are yellow. So if you wanted to filter this map only by papers that are published in English, you could filter it out, and you can see, no exception to this outlier right here. I'm not sure why I didn't filter this one out. But you can basically see all the newspapers that are published in English. And if you click on one, it tells you what the name of the newspaper is, where it's published, what language, and you also have links to their Facebook page, which we can't access here on campus, unfortunately, or maybe even their Twitter. So if you clicked on their Twitter account, you can kind of see what they're tweeting right now. Which stories they think are important from Charleston, South Carolina. I'm going to go ahead and let's say, for example, if you want to show how many of these newspapers are published in, let's say, Polish. Most likely, you'd probably expect that the newspapers around Poland are being shown here. If you wanted to say which ones are shown only in Spanish, you can see that Spanish, it's a lot of proliferation, some a little bit here in North America. Let me refresh, let me go back to that. I think I reset the map accidentally. A little bit here in North America, a lot in the south part of North America, Central America, and the northern part of South America. And a lot, of course, in Spain, which is where Spanish comes from. So you can kind of educate the students, where different languages are spoken, and where they have a lot of population centers. This is called breakingnews.com. Now, what this is, it's an aggregator of different headlines that are most important globally. Now, it's kind of like a Twitter feed in terms of the most recent stories that are updated appear at the top of the timeline, and some of the stories offer video links. For example, this is covering Tropical Storm Iselle, which is making landfall in Hawaii at this moment. So if you wanted to show, how different live events are happening in different parts of the world, even though Hawaii is part of our country, it's a different part of the country than where we live in North Carolina. You can view that here. And as you scroll down, you can see different news events that are being posted on this timeline, and they also give you a category as to what part of news, what type of news it is. In this case, this article is about the auto industry. This one's about Tropical Storm Iselle. This one's about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. If you want, for example, if you want to save a topic, let's say you want to learn more about the tropical storm in Hawaii, you can click the tag on the left-hand side, and that will save that story so you can go back to it later. If you decide, for example, there are some sensitive topics, like for example a missing child, and you don't want to see any more stories, you can click mute, and that will hide that story from the timeline, and no more updates for that story will be posted. If you have students that are kind of sensitive to certain subjects that you don't want to expose them to. So you do have control over the stories that are posted. On the map view, and this shows you where a lot of the most important stories that are being reported globally through breakingnews.com, where they're originating from. So I can kind of pan over from one side of the map to the other, and you can see where the news hotspots are happening. I imagine the bigger the circles, the more important the story is. For example, if you mouse over this story here in Russia, as posted an hour ago, Russia's military defense, their exercises near the Ukrainian border are over, according to Interfax, and it gives you the source as well. If you go over here, it gives you this story was posted 3 minutes ago. This story was posted 4 hours ago. This story was posted an hour ago. If you go down to different parts of the world that we're not less familiar with, like for example in Africa, this could talk about in Nigeria, Nigerians being treated as a suspected case of Ebola. Burkina Faso, the World Health Organization. So breakingnews.com gives you a real-time example of breaking news, what's happening in the world. Of course, Hawaii is very important right now because of the storms that are approaching there, which doesn't happen very often. So this could be another conversation starter if you want to discuss real-time, current events that are happening in the world, and also combine that with geological terms, geological features, geography, so on and so forth. Okay, well, thank you for watching as I try to stumble through this topic. Once again, I'm Russell Smith. Please let me know if there are any topics that you'd like me to cover. And once again, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.